Salama fam. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. How are y'all doing out there in the YouTube world space? How y'all doing, family? How y'all doing? Anyway, so glad that y'all could be here tonight. Y'all, we're going to get into it. We're going to have a little discussion. It's been a lot of stuff going on. And I had to frame my title the way I framed it because y'all know what happened the last time I had this discussion. So the title, the way it is for a particular reason. But tonight we're going to be talking about this situation with these churches and what they're doing and how they're handling this whole vaccination issue. So we're going to have some special guests tonight, and I'm going to be bringing them in a minute. But y'all know how I do. Before I do, I want to say a couple of shout outs to everybody in the building. So I want to say blessings, peace and blessings to Rose Tally as always. Oh, they've been messing with your subs? Oh my goodness. Yeah. You know what? You got to get on my text list because I let everybody know a half an hour before just because of that. You know, it's crazy how they do. But you know how it is with this censorship now. So I believe you. But peace and blessings anyway. Shalom, Donna. Blessings. It's so good to see you. Mr. The Original, greetings to you as well. Always good to see you. Lemeria Johnson, salama to you. Stephanie, salama. Anaya, that's how it is, Anaya. Batya, Anaya, Shalom. Peace and blessings to you. Good to see you. Woman of God, always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Tikiya, that's my lady right there. So glad to see you, Miss Tikiya. True Seeker, thank you so much for being here tonight. So blessed to have you in the building. Shauna, thank you so much for being here tonight. Always good to see you. LC, so good to see you. Thank you so much. Salama to you. Milan, thank you so much for coming in tonight. Shalom, shalom. Vanessa, salama to you as well. Tana, Monica, Niyaziki, Ayana, Ruhama, peace and blessings, my sister. Blessings to see you. Beloved of TMH, salama to you all. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started and bring some folks into the building. Y'all know Brother Damon from the Elephantman Podcast Network. Y'all give him some love. Tell him thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
Grace
Brother Stephen. Grace and peace. Brother Stephen, y'all know he was on the channel before we did the Jerusalem Mindset. Stephen, give some love, some shout outs.
Shalom, family. How y'all doing tonight?
All right. My brother Karis, Covenant Awakenings in the house. What's good, Karis?
Hey, shalom, salama, siemi, shalom. Greetings, my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world.
Love the signature welcome. Love it. And of course, my sister's in the building, Sister E. Come on, sis. Gotta show the fam some love.
What's going on, family? How y'all doing today? Or this evening, rather?
Yes, y'all. Thank y'all so much for coming on the panel. I'm just, really glad that we got an opportunity to talk about this tonight because y'all know all of us, not one of us on here does not understand what's going on. We came out of the Protestant churches. We're very, very close knit in our heart. What's been a church before we woke up, and now to see the trajectory, to see what's happening with this pandemic, y'all, it's a lot that's going on with these churches. So, we're going to talk about this stuff tonight because I'm telling you, honestly, my heart is aching over some of the stuff that I've been seeing that's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our first video. I saw this about a week and a half ago. And Karis, you can really appreciate this because this coming out of, our neck of the woods or my former neck of the woods with yours. So I'm going to show this video coming out of Florida and what's going on with this. Give me just 1 second to pull it up. Y'all take a look at this.
And in more local news today, more senior citizens got a chance to receive their vaccinations.
500 doses were administered at St. Matthew Baptist Church in Jacksonville's Moncrief neighborhood. News 4 Jax reporter Zach Lashway spoke with people who got their shots.
Willie Fillmore. In an effort to make the COVID-19 vaccine more accessible, We really believe making sure these vaccines are getting into all segments of communities is important, and we think working with our houses of worship is one way that you can do that.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says this is a statewide effort.
You're going to see 7 of these sites working today in conjunction with places of worship, many of them with predominantly African American churches. So we have here in Lynn Haven, we also have Tallahassee, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, St. Lucie, Tampa, and Jacksonville.
The State Department of Health administered 500 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine by appointment at St. Matthew Baptist Church in Moncrief.
Our church, Mount Sinai, Pastor Gundy, they called us at home, asked did we want to take the shot. So first I was nervous and I said no. Then the next day, Friday, I called him and I called back to the church and they said, well, call Audrey Gibson office, let the secretary take your name, put it on the roll for Mount Sinai. Okay. So I did that.
Ravina Brooks and her husband Earl received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine and say they have appointments to receive the second dose in a couple of weeks.
It didn't hurt.
Didn't hurt at all. I was waiting for it to hurt, but it didn't.
How did you get access to this shot? Did you make an appointment, and who did you make that appointment through?
Well, the appointment was made, actually, a pastor friend of mine with access. We went through process of him doing it through on the line, and we got it in, through Senator Audrey Gibson office, that it went through the process, and I was able to get in and get it.
Transforming places of worship into places of protection for more people amid this pandemic. In Moncrief, Ashanda-at-Large, Channel 4, the local station.
We reached out to the Florida Department of Health to confirm who was in charge of booking these appointments. The governor said today they hope to host more efforts like this in coming weeks.
Face masks and social distancing measures.
Now, family, y'all got a chance to see that for yourselves. This stuff is happening all over the place. But when I saw that in South Florida, I couldn't even believe it. It just blew my mind. I was just blown away, and I'm just so frustrated over it. Karis, let me know what you think. We're gonna welcome in Brother Yacoba, TEOTW Ministries. Hey, what's going on, Brother Yacoba, Minister Yacoba? How you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, Sister Ashanda? Hey, family.
All right, Karis, let me get your take on that because you're right out there in Florida.
Yeah, I'm here in Tampa, and Tampa's about 3 hours away from Jacksonville, and they Governor DeSantis has been hitting the road pretty hard to push this the vaccine, especially among the churches here, and so I want to kind of take a look because I'm going to refer to an article by Time Magazine that was published back in 2016. And it showed that Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood used the same thing with Black preachers to provide that cover to say, hey, come on in and, go ahead, partake in this. Something that's going to change the DNA, something that's going to cause autoimmune disorders. And we're seeing the same repeat 105 years later. And see, family, make no mistake, what was done under the sun has already been done before. Okay? Right. It was just that this time it's a little bit more perfected because you have more media on top of it, and the government effort's more coordinated. And remember, they're going after us first. And if you notice the Black lady that was talking, the older Black lady, she had said she was afraid. And then what did they do? They coaxed her into it. Remember, that's like we had all said, even with what Yacoba had said, they cannot physically induce this on us. This is a curse of Balaam, and it's happening in full force.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. And what you said about that older woman and how you're right. She said, I was scared. But then they used the pastor to push this on her. And the reality is that they went for the arm of what's the most trusting source, right? From many Black people, which is the Black church. And you're so right when you talk about Margaret Sanger, because that's exactly what she did with the Negro Project. So it's like they don't really have a whole lot new in their playbook. They just keep playing the same tricks over and over and over again, because many of our people were like, no, I'm not messing around with that. Many of our people are like, no, this isn't right. I'm going to stay as far away from it as I possibly can. But then what do? They go and they use the Black pastors to go and coerce them into doing something that is really against the Holy Spirit or the Ruach HaKodesh in them, telling them to avoid that. What do you think about this, Sister E?
You know, I've been talking about this for a while. And Curious beat me to the punch. I was going to talk about Margaret Sanger. But I mean, in history and throughout time, they've always used us as guinea pigs. You had the which experiment was that? The Tuskegee experiment, when
Right.
they were, when they were giving the men, was it syphilis? And they've always used us as guinea pigs. If you even look at the beginning of time, when gynecology became a profession, who were the first guinea pigs for that? That was Black slave women. We've always been known to be guinea pigs. And what's interesting is history has never changed at all. It's consistent. It's just some of our people are so trusting upon a system that we don't see the writing on the wall. When all of a sudden have Black people been that important to the point that they are so worried about this disease in the Black community that we got to get the Black people vaccinated first? Come on now, we're not stupid. And the problem is now that they wanted to use us for guinea pigs. I think some of us now older or younger, the younger generations are rejecting it. So what they're going to do, they're going to go to the Black churches where the older people who are scared are going to run to it, because some of them are still embedded in the system. I was talking to my mom about it. And I told her, I said, don't you take that vaccine? She said, you ain't got to worry about me taking no vaccine. She said, I don't trust them. They ain't going to shoot nothing in my arm. So my mom is a little bit more of a skeptic when it comes to that. But it's just so sad that our people are still trusting upon a system that has never proven to take it to care about us. And I'm like, what is it going to take for y'all to realize that they don't care nothing about us? They want us out of here. Again, all of a sudden, let's just worry about the Black people. Come on now. We're not that stupid. But obviously there are people out here that are scared and just falling for the system. But the trick is this. Let's put a black face. The new trick is put a black face in front of it. Who is the face of the fighting against the pandemic, as far as the task force? A Black woman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yes. So let's get into her tonight, too, because that's the same thing during the Tuskegee experiments. They used a Black woman.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate, right? Because it makes us look bad as Black women. It's like, why are we constantly being used as a vehicles to do the bidding of Ha-Satan? I mean, it's like we have to realize that this system has never been for us. It hasn't been for our men. It hasn't been for our children. It hasn't been for us. But yet they prop us up. They make us feel good. Like, oh, you're educated. You should speak to your community and be an advocate for this thing. And it's so unfortunate because so many of our women are falling for this nonsense because they're looking for that validation from the oppressor class. It don't understand that their validation will never be found in them. But I'm going to talk to Stephen for a minute because, see, we kind of are in the same neck of the woods. Now, we both left South Florida, but this is the area that they're targeting. And Steve, I'm going to tell you, I spoke to a friend tonight, and she told me, she's out in the Hollywood area, and she told me that her church has become one of these hubs as well. And I was blown away. What are your thoughts about this, being that this is directly in our old neck of the woods?
Man, listen, my mother is just about an hour, if less, from where Karis is. She's in Sarasota, right over there by Siesta Key, and she just broke the news to me a couple weeks ago. My stepdad went and got the vaccine. My uncle got it. My aunt went and got it. My aunt, she was kind of forced to get it because she works in the healthcare in South Carolina, and if they told her she wanted to work, continue to work, she had to take it. So, they're getting pretty serious about this thing. But what gets me is when I see them using these churches like this is, these are the same pastors that are going to sit up there on Sunday and, bring the word and say, the Lord said, my people perish for the lack of knowledge, but they have the knowledge right now about this, and they're still perishing because they're still telling their people, go get this vaccine, go do this, go do that, things that are not for us. And they know that it's targeted towards us because they're not hiding it. Not to mention people like Brother Yacoba and Brother Karis and Sister E. They've been putting this information out there for months now, telling our people.
Years. Mr. Yacoba been putting this out for years. Okay,
and they're still going. They're still going. I mean, because I'm not gonna put nobody on blast, but I've talked to people that I see their names like in the chat rooms. And they've taken the vaccine, and I'm like, you were watching the same podcast that I was watching. You went and got the vaccine. Like, really? This is what we're doing? Like, what was the purpose of being in there and listening, putting comments in the chat room that, Brother Yacoba, he's writing what he's saying. Brother Karis is writing what he's saying, but you still went and got the vaccine. Makes no sense to me. But this is our people. This is our people. Our people are a stiff-necked people. This is why y'all called us a stiff-necked people. Because we still want to do what we want to do, not what he has commanded us to do.
Exactly. And Damon, let me ask you a question. This is out in Florida, but are you seeing any movement like this in your neck of the woods? Any news reports about what's going on in terms of the churches being set up as vaccination centers out where you're at?
Absolutely. I'm in Northwest Indiana, not that far from the Chicagoland area. And they're really about to ramp it up in Chicago. A lot of black churches in Chicago. And I think what it is might be a blind spot going on with it, or a church might be hurt. Let's say if they need some financial help, and they come in and say, "Hey, let us make your church a hub for our vaccines, and we help with this and help with that." And so I think that blind spot is what makes it real scary. But it's going to ramp up in Northwest Indiana and Chicago as well.
Wow, that. So we're seeing that this thing is nationwide, and I'm definitely turn the floor over to Minister Yacoba because, like I said, he's been banging on this for years, talking to us constantly about the 400 year and the prophecy and the judgment surrounding everything that's happening. What are your opinions about this when you're seeing so many of our people having a Hosea 4:6 moment, Minister Yacoba?
Well, I'm really sad, and because we warn people and they don't listen. And here's the thing: they target the elderly because, as you all said, they're trusting and they're scared. They've had health issues, and they're trying to make sure they don't get sick, right? And so they don't understand that we are literally living in the biblical times, right? We're living in the book of Revelation. What we're dealing with here is the same thing that we dealt with during the times of Noah. Now, the funny thing is, with me growing up, I think I'm older than everybody on here, and ever since I was young, we would talk about these things, and we talked about, that they would manipulate the DNA because the scripture states that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. The scriptures state that Noah was perfect in his generation, which is the same word tamim, which is used for unblemished sacrifice, right? So that shows you that during the times of Noah, they were corrupted. The Bible says that man corrupted himself and the animals corrupted themselves. And now we're in the same situation where people are literally GMO, genetically modified organisms. And if you got children and your children is thinking about marrying somebody, now you need to make sure they got a non-GMO sticker on them, because everybody who getting vaccinated are now genetically modified, right? And so, this is foolishness and nobody listens. And my thing is, and I can't say it is or isn't, it doesn't fit the mark of the beast description in Revelation 13, but I don't know, because it's sort of close. You know what I'm saying? And
it's real close. Yeah, I agree with you. It's like it's so close. It's like if it's not that, then it's like the next step.
Yeah.
There's no steps after this.
Exactly. And the thing is, when it comes to our people are just way too trusting of these folks, and they have no reason to be, right? Historically have no reason to trust these folks. And I'm gonna say it like this, right? I mean, because everybody want to be pie in the sky, everything got to be positive and all this stuff. Well, the Bible told us what was going to happen. Everybody read the book of Revelation and saw that it was dark, right? The only good thing about the book of Revelation is that Jesus comes and saves us, right? So if it's going to be dark before the light, right? We're in this darkness. Same thing with Isaiah 60, right? We're dealing with times where you either have to be prepared to die, right? Or you're going to take the vax. I mean, that's sort of where we're at, right? You're going to be prepared to suffer, or you're going to compromise with the devil. I'm sorry, to me, we're in biblical times. I've set my mind, whatever's going to be, going to be.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to just keep it 100 with y'all. This week has been very difficult for me. It has been so hard for me because, my family members, some of them have decided to take it. And, you get to this place where you almost get a little bit of shock because you're like, man, I didn't see that one coming. Now, certain family members I did. It was like, okay, yeah, I already see, you've already been going in that direction for a long time. But others, I say God-fearing, if you will. Those are the ones that really shocked me. And it's like, it was almost like a punch to my soul. And so, as a matter of fact, I reached out to Brother Karras, and I tell you, I said, I don't want to talk about this on the channel. I told him, I said, but I'm hurting right now. And the reason why I did that is because, just the week before, he was talking about his own situation with his own family member. And it's like one of these things where, unfortunately, it's a connection that you don't want to have to make, that you feel like you're in a wilderness by yourself because the people who you thought around you were a little bit woke, if you will, or thinking a little bit different, understanding that this system is not for us, then they go and they shock you. What are your thoughts about that, Brother Karras, before we move on to some of the other things that I want to share tonight?
Well, I'll first and foremost, I have to definitely give the Most High praise and glory because a couple days after my brother had taken the vaccine, he had developed an aneurysm. And so they caught it early and they took him to the hospital, gave him whatever medicines, and it was able to prevent the clotting that had gone on. And, the doctor said that, it was cholesterol and this and that. And look, he had already been on cholesterol medications and things of that nature. And, when you're on those Symbastins and things of that nature, the statins that help with that. And I'm not a medical doctor, so don't try to, say, I'm going to do this and do that. But I understand the science of how it works. And he was already saying, he was tired when I spoke to him. And this was the day before he had went to the hospital. And so, he was also sweating and doing a lot of stuff. And it's like, you don't sweat when you have an aneurysm, And so when I listen to things, I listen closely because I'm an analyst. I always listen to things closely. And so, I was putting two and two together and I'm like, hey, man, I said, really, you shouldn't have taken the vaccine. I told him that. And, and he said, well, if there's anything, God will protect me. And so I want to kind of, talk about this because this is something that we really have to understand in terms of the mindset that we have as a people. And so I want to bring up Genesis 15, 12 through 14, but I want you all to pay attention intricately to what I'm about to say. And so I'm going to start at 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. Okay? Also that nation. Do you understand that there's a divide going on right now in this nation that the Most High is doing? And he made that known on January 6th. We have been saying, look, if you're going to be comfortable with destruction, you're going to go into destruction. And this is sad because this is my own brother too. This is your own flesh, your own blood. And you have to understand, look, when they said we're going to come up out of Babylon weeping, this is what it means. And this is not a game. We're already at this point in this time. And that's where we're seeing it. They know. I had told you all, look at Rosewood. Look at Rosewood. And you saw the Estelle Getty, the woman that played Esther. She played the mom in Rosewood, and she was trying to talk to the people to get the mob calmed down, and then they put some holes into her. And that's an historical account because Rosewood is only about an hour and 45 minutes just north of me. So there's constant reminders of what they've done and how they've done things. That do you think that if this is 400 years and the powers that be know that this is 400 years, do you think that they want a lot of us walking out of here or just a little bit of us? So this is where we're saying, family, if you have the nation on your mind, you're going to be judged with this nation.
Yeah.
So, Sister Ashanda, can I share something right quick?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. This
I'm on the opposite side, so it's a little slow. Let's see. Okay.
You good. It's just, it's tough. And we need to have this real conversation, y'all, because I know a lot of times, we get up here and we converse about these things, we're delivering, we're crying out to the Most High Yah and just hoping that somebody's going to hear what we're saying. But we're also dealing with this stuff in our individual lives and having to stand and having to, deal with all the emotional turmoil that comes with having people who are hard-headed and don't listen that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to give Minister Yacob an opportunity to share this. But yeah, y'all, it's real out here.
Yeah, and I have family members as well that took it, not direct, but, they're cousins, right? And they don't listen. And one of them who took it, he's on dialysis and all kind of stuff. So I'm like, he's one of the people who definitely shouldn't have taken it. So what we see here is from this the CDC and the FDA, right? And it says the side effects of the Rona vaccine, right? Guillain-Barré syndrome, acute disseminated encephalitis, traverse mellitus, encephalitis mellitus, and so forth. Convulsions, seizures, stroke. What's a stroke? It's an aneurysm. Narcolepsy and cataplexy, anaphylaxis, acute myocardial infection, myocarditis, autoimmune deaths as a side effect, pregnancy and birth outcomes, other acute demyelinating disease, non-anaphylactic allergies, disseminated intravascular coagulation. And what that is a condition in which the blood clots from throughout the body, blocking small blood vessels. That could be an aneurysm as well, right? Venous thrombolism, arthritis, Kawasaki disease. That's why you get those little things on your skin, right? And your blood clots all on your skin and stuff. Multi-system inflammatory syndrome. That's similar to Kawasaki, but it happens to kids. Vaccine enhanced disease, whatever that's inclusive of. So, they don't show you all of these things, but these are the type of things that you are potentially going to get if you get the vax. Now, you tell me, do you think your chances are better with the Rona or with the vax? I'm just saying.
No, man, you 100%. I'm going to tell you, it's funny that you brought this up, right? And the first thing you see at the top of the list is the Guillain-Barré, right? I'm very familiar with Guillain-Barré because my husband had Guillain-Barré. And he was in ICU for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And they kept asking him, have you taken a vaccine recently? Have you taken a vaccine? He said, no, I haven't. So when I was doing my research about this Wuhan, this WUVID thing here, I went on to the CDC, and I'm saying stuff you understand, okay? I went on there and I saw that the adverse reaction of many vaccinations was Guillain-Barré. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, this thing sat in my husband's system for how long? How many years? And when he had it, let me tell you, half his body was paralyzed. Okay, he couldn't move his face muscles, his shoulder, anything. And it is life-threatening. But some brothers came and prayed over him, and the Most High used them to heal him through the prayers because the doctors didn't know what to do. So he can never, by Yah's grace, ever have another vaccination, neither our children. And I said, we're one, so that's good enough for me. But I'm telling you, this stuff is very serious. And I agree with you. What do you want to take your chances with? Getting the so-called virus, or getting yourself pricked with this jab that can do things like what Guillain-Barré does? Thank y'all in the super chat. I appreciate Amstone as well as Shauna. Thank you so much for the super chat.
And Sister Shonda, one thing I would like to add is you can't trust Black doctors, right? Because even though they might have the best of intentions, they've been conditioned by the system that they work for. Their mind trusts the system because they've been conditioned over years to trust the system. And so they're going to tell you to do it thinking it's safe because they don't know and they don't do the research like most of us don't.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And it's unfortunate, you know, how you have to kind of guard the things that you say in your words. It's like almost like whenever you're having conversations at this point, you have to vet the conversations because, you know, when you're dealing with people who are directly involved in the medical community, they have been taught a certain way. We were just on Facebook, and a sister of ours who we used to fellowship with, she became a physician last year, and she's on FB promoting the vax and how she just got it. She got the second dose, and I felt bad, but let me tell you, there's so much misinformation going around. And what really irritates me, and y'all can speak to this too. What irritates me is this, you know, this idea of treating us like we're infants, like, you know, we're toddlers, or we're unable to put two and two together. Like we can't go and do any research, and we can't think for ourselves and be able to see and call a spade a spade. It's this, you know, let me fact check this and let me help you to understand what you don't understand. It's like, hold on a second. You know, I know you all think that we're ignorant, but we're not. So that frustrates me. Anybody will comment on that before we move on? And thank you so much, Denise, for the super chat.
Hey, Sister Shonda.
Hey, Stephen, go right on ahead.
I just wanted to caveat a little bit off what Minister Yacoba said about the Black doctors. So here in Atlanta, where I'm at right now, me and you talked about this off the phone a couple months ago. You know, I have two prominent Black doctors that are in my group here in Atlanta. And, you know, during one of our Bible studies, they had shared with us that they had just, that same day we had our Bible study, they had just got off a video conference call with, I don't want to get your channel shut down, but, you know, somebody who used to be in charge of the WHO, you know, and he was pretty much telling all the Black doctors, there was about 20 of them on this call, and was telling them, you know, you really need to get your communities, you know, they want to use the right words. You know, they say you get your communities to go along with this. You know, it's going to be best for the, you know, the Black community, and, you know, we're going to give them all the help they need if they'll just consent to doing this. And, you know, and the two doctors that are in my group plus 4 other Black doctors refuse to do it, and they have pretty much been barred from a lot of stuff. They're actually working from home now because they didn't want to go along with, you know what, so they had to open up their own offices. You know, they were working at certain hospitals and everything, and they're now opening their own locations because they refused to go along with what they were being told to tell our community. So Minister Yacoba was he hit it, you know, right on the head. You know, you can't trust them, you know, because they're being told, and a lot of them gave into it because it was to better their careers, we'll say.
Well, you know what? That's what you said is right on key, is right on spot, and it's a perfect commentary right before we go into what I'm going to show y'all, because y'all probably already seen this, but I'm gonna go ahead and show it to you anyway, dealing with TD Jakes.
American community about the vaccine. Bishop T.D. Jakes brought in big-name experts for an online event called Conversations with America, Understanding the COVID-19 Vaccine. During the nearly hour-long discussion, Jakes asked questions such as whether these experts had any angst about the vaccine over the long term. Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, the lead scientist on the coronavirus research team, didn't hesitate.
Absolutely no angst at all. You know, one of the things that I think is largely forgotten throughout this is that the first phase 1 clinical trial actually started on March the 16th, which was almost 10 months ago. And so from those people, they've been followed since then, and there are no outcomes for long-term adverse outcomes. Long-term side effects are not something to be worried about.
Much of the concern among Blacks dates back to the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, a 40-year government study involving hundreds of Black men. The men, mostly poor sharecroppers suffering from syphilis, were monitored yet not treated by government health officials. Many died, went blind, or experienced other severe health problems. Dr. Anthony Fauci admitted the skepticism is understandable.
It's a shameful history that we have to just deal with. So whenever I talk to my African American friends and colleagues about getting vaccinated, you always have to show respect for their skepticism and then try to get them to understand why it is safe, it is effective, and it is good not only for your own health, but for your families and your community.
Jakes explained while hard-hit communities of color desperately need the vaccine, access and distribution may be a problem. He suggested using churches and other faith-based groups as a solution.
Is there any thought about getting medical professionals to work through faith-based entities within those local communities where they could go to churches, for instance, and have medical physicians there that could administer the vaccine? Because many of our communities are in food deserts and places like that where they can't get the vaccine.
You could do it by community centers, churches. You mentioned, Bishop, is very important. Faith-based organizations getting involved, but also mobile units to go out into those communities which are not readily accessible.
In the meantime, Jakes says while his conversation provides people with education and knowledge about the shot, he also wishes to offer hope to those affected by the pandemic. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Now, Sister E, before we get on to TD Snakes, well, what's your thoughts about that quote unquote sister and the things she had to say, her role in this development? What are your thoughts on that?
I think she's they're using her because her development is this. I had stepped away for a second. Isn't she the one that's pushing the vaccine on the Black community?
Oh yeah. And did y'all hear she said no adverse reactions to report?
Yeah, it's a game. They have to have a black face to make us respond. And the thing is, we've learned that lesson numerous times that I think this generation is a little bit more privy of that. Like putting a black face means nothing to us. Black faces come after us all the time, especially in our community. So we already understand that. But she's being used to make us go and take the vaccine, to say, oh, everything is all right, Black people. Well, if it's all right, I want her to be the first one in line. Take the vaccine. Let me watch you. And then I want you to take that second vaccine. I want to see what's going to happen. Because if I'm finna do it, we all finna do it. That's my mindset. And then Jake sitting up there, TD, you know him. He eating good in the neighborhood. Let's talk about that also. So
okay.
They paying him big money. You can see, I mean, he ain't missing no meals. So you ain't finna get me caught up. Like I said,
know that's right.
If we finna go take this vaccine, we finna go take this vaccine. I mean, come pick me up. Let me stand next to you as you get that shot. And let me come back with you the second go round. Let me watch. No, you ain't finna send me out and you somewhere watching us. So yeah, I don't trust that. That's a game.
I know that's right. Thank you so much, Darren, in the super chat. I appreciate it, brother. But yeah, I mean, TD, boy, I tell you, I don't know. I mean, I was a little nervous for him, because I was like, maybe this man maybe he's being threatened or something. I don't know. I mean, could he just be that much of a sellout to his whole community? What say you, Damon? What's your thoughts on TD Snakes?
I always say, do these people really know? Or is it a dangling carrot that attractive? Is the funds that good that you'll sell your people out, or is it really a blind spot? And that's what I'll be like amazed. And that influence. I think the scary thing is the influence that TD Jakes and these people have, and they say it, and skepticism is gone, and people are lining up to get the shot. So I don't know if these people are. Do they actually know, or is it a serious blind spot for that paycheck? It's amazing. I'll just be amazed.
Did you say a dangling carrot? Let's try a dangling cheeseburger for him right now.
Cheeseburgers. No, whole T-bone steak.
That's it. Jake's ain't finna take no carrot. I just want to say that.
Carrot meaning the money bag. Carrot meaning the money bag.
I'm messing with y'all.
No, you're right. And they, they got the sister sitting up there next to him. What was her role? I don't even know why she was there. But she just sitting next to him, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, the two of these, I agree with you, Sister E. They was looking real comfortable in their position. And I'm saying, you want to talk about food deserts? Okay, brother, why don't you do something about those food deserts? I mean, you've been getting so much money from this community. How about you go pour some of that back in there so they can get some vegetables, and some fruits, instead of setting up and even pushing this idea that using the churches as vax hubs is a more legitimate deal to help your so-called community that you pretend like you care about. What say you, Karis?
Well, listen, what gains the whole world? What does a man gain the whole world
Mm-hmm.
His soul is obviously gone. And this is where we have understood that the quote unquote church fathers that was there to profit off the gospel, off the message. Well, here it is. And this is in full force and full effect. And they gained a lot because they're doing what the system has called them to do under 501c3. And look, you have to play ball at all cost, or your behind is going to be a Bishop Eddie Long, and everything's going to come out of the closet right before you die.
You brought up Bishop Long. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So here's the thing. What it has done, and when we've exposed it, we've exposed what the church was in terms of the entity that it was created for our distraction, our disillusionment. Now the core foundations were there for salvation, but that's all they have right now. Because you may be needing salvation once you take that vaccine, because in a little bit of time, based off of what Yacoba had shown, you ain't going to be on this side of the grave that much longer. So that's certainly true. But again, in terms of what we had all expected when our awakening, this is why the Most High awakened us. So let's not be, naive or surprised that this is going on, especially in this time, because you got to understand, literally the Most High gave us at least 4 or 5 years to really prepare for this.
Right.
So I'll just say hallelujah. Thank you, Father, for him waking us up to see this so we can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I really do thank the Most High too, because, he uses everything in our life to prepare us for moments like these. And I know even in my own family, we've had so many situations, like I told you about my husband with getting Guillain-Barré. There's things to help us to understand that we don't need to be trusting in the arm of man. I think it was, I'm not sure which king it was. It could have been Hezekiah, who had, it wasn't Hezekiah. But it was What's the king's name again? Let me think. King Asa, that's what his name was. He had a foot infection and he trusted the Most High most of the way. But when it came to that foot infection, he could not trust him. He trusted in the medical community. And because of that, the Most High allowed him to perish. So I'm not necessarily coming and saying, okay, that he can't use the medical community in ways that are beneficial and helpful. But in this day and time, I would be very, very cautious about trusting in them for anything. What say you, Minister Yacoba? What do you think about TD?
Well, I was never a fan of TD Snakes. And be honest with you, most people don't know. I went to his church when he first started.
What?
Right? Yep. I went to his church when he first started. I was one of the first ones who joined and was a member of the congregation and everything. Because, you know, back then it was the thing to do. And, but, you know, he a snake. But the other thing is this, right? It's sort of the same thing that we see with Julius Malema in Africa. Right, they're all getting these big paychecks, and a lot of them are looking for political career advancement. And you know, we see that, you know, with going against the establishment, they're either going to hurt you economically, like maybe remove your 501c3 status, or however many ways they can hurt us. So some of these people think that, well, look, I'm not going to get it, my family's not going to get it, but I'm gonna tell the rest of the people they should get it, right? Now that tells you where they are on a spiritual level, right? But when we look at it, they don't care about what's going to happen because they feel in the end they're going to be part of the privileged class. But what they don't understand, and this goes to all the leaders in Africa, Julius Malema, all of them, what they don't understand is once it's established globally, and everyone's a part of the system, they're coming for you next. Because right now you have the power of your nation. But once the system is fully established as a global economic system and world government, which is what the Great Reset is for, then they're going to be like, I know you didn't get yours, but now you got to get it, called the mark of the beast. I know you didn't get yours. Now you got to get it, TD Jakes, right? You and your family, you're going to be like, there's no place to run. They don't understand these people work long term. They'll let you slide right now so that you could be the last one on the end to get it.
Yeah, exactly. So you could be on the last one. And it reminds me of, you know, when Esther, when she was confronted with this whole issue in the kingdom, and Mordecai came to her and he said, this is what's going on with Haman. He's trying to destroy us. He said, listen, now you can sit comfortably if you want to, okay? And you don't have to say anything. But the Most High will raise up a deliverer. And don't think that if you choose not to obey, that you won't be affected by this as well.
Say that again, Sister Ashanda, please, so they all can hear.
So Mordecai tells Esther, you can sit pretty if you want to. Okay, ignore this. The Most High will raise up a deliverer. Okay, but don't think that you will be able to come out of this if you disobey him and don't stand up for your people at this time. And this is what he said. Who knows? Maybe he put you here for such a time as this. So it's scary. You know, the realities are is that when you live in your day-to-day life, it's scary to stand for the Most High, especially when you're dealing with people that are around you that are not listening to his voice. But these are the times, these are the moments of testing when it shows your grit, shows who you really are. Are you really for him? Or are you just talking because, you know, it's the, as you said, we're going to TD Jakes Day is the thing to do, right? So anybody else have anything they want to add to that before I move on to this? Because it was something in particular that this lady said that I'm going to just squelch in this next video.
I just want to throw in real quick something I see that's going to come next. It's kind of like back in the day when polio and they had Elvis come on TV and take the shot to try to, you know, get people to, well, if Elvis is doing it, we're going to do it. And they're going to do the same thing with these black pastors. You know, they're going to have Jakes come on and have him take the shot to try to get people, well, if my pastor did it, then I'm going to do it. You know, it's the same thing. It's just, you know, Solomon said it best. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just a repeat cycle that our people seem to be stuck in for some reason. And they just refuse to see that they're stuck in a cycle and refuse to call on Yah and say, pull me out of this. Get my head on straight.
Yeah, that's right. That's, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and piggyback off of what Stephen said, for those who don't trust the church leaders, they're going to start having more celebrities. So a lot of celebrities are going to be rolling up their sleeves more and more now, you know, because everybody don't trust the church. So, but a lot of people love celebrities, so they're gonna get more celebrities to do it.
Oh yeah,
because it's the image. No, go ahead, sister. It's just the image.
And the scary part is now they're also going into the black colleges. If y'all haven't heard, and I think I did something about a couple of months ago, that these college professors at these HBCUs are taking the vaccine and trying to get the kids to take the vaccine. And if anybody knows me, my daughter actually goes to a major HBCU, and we've already had that discussion. That if they do that, we're gonna have to sit it out for a little bit and just ride the wave until it's time for us to get up out of here. Cause they did it all on the news, and parents are upset. And I think one of the schools is I want to say it's one of the Atlanta schools. But I know that they've started. I think Hampton is another one. The HBCUs are trying to get in as well. So
that makes a lot of sense because, with all that fanfare about Kamala and she's coming from HBCU, I think she was out at Howard, right? She graduated from Howard, or am I wrong on that one?
Yeah.
But
she was at Howard.
Okay. So with all this fanfare over her with the HBCU, so it makes so much sense because, see, what they're trying to do is position these universities and these places of worship as, this is the ideal. This is where you want to be. This is what you want to do if you're going to be something in the world. And the whole thing is that what believers are so-called believers or so-called Christians fail to realize is we ain't supposed to be in the world. We ain't supposed to be looking for the world's accolades. We're supposed to be doing the opposite. Like I was sharing this with my group the other day, and I said, what separates us from the rest of the world other than a couple of hallelujahs and praise the Lords? I mean, come on now. If you're doing the same exact thing that the world is doing, really, what separates you? Nothing. So you got to ask yourself, are you really for him or are you for your father, the devil? And I do have to ask, who's your father? So I'm going to share this video real quick. And part of this video is talking about exactly what Minister Jacobo was sharing about the different stuff that is adverse reactions. But then I want y'all to pay careful attention to somebody who is honest about what's really going on. And he's dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. Take a look at this.
Right on FDA.gov as a possible adverse event outcome to this. So this is not me. This is not my opinion. This is what the people who are supposed to be tasked to look out for these things are told to look out for. There are things pertaining to pregnancy and birth, and we just showed you that they didn't test those. What else do we have here? All kinds of really not good, not small things. Now that we've touched on that, I would like to go into the VAERS, the VAERS reporting system. To learn more info on exactly what the VAERS system or VAX Adverse Events Reporting System is and how you too can gain access to this publicly available government system, see step-by-step directions at the end of this video. What you are now about to hear are some of only 8,000 adverse events that have already been directly uploaded into the VAERS system since late December. So only about 1 month of reporting on VAERS, which is again controlled by the FDA and CDC. You're now about to hear specific descriptions of what happened to a variety of people directly after they took the CV jab. Let's just take a look at some of these things. I don't expect that you guys can read these very well, but I will read some of them for you. 51-year-old male with, this looks like he has COPD. So that's not a good condition, right? This is someone who would be vulnerable to COVID-19. It says he had severe pulmonary fibrosis and he became increasingly hypoxic around 1800 hours. He was transported to hospital for acute hypoxia and respiratory failure. 5 days later, he was changed to comfort care and died. Approximately 10:30 p.m. on 114, resident. Now, if this says resident, a lot of times that means a nursing home person, right? Resident was noted to have a rash on her face, hands, arms, and chest. It goes into some of her vitals. On 115, that's the next day, resident congestion and coughing, at which point the doctor gave permission for her to go to the hospital. At 4:19 a.m., the ER called to say that she passed away. So that looks like it was about 1 day after. This person, it says here, passed away 3 days after receiving the jab, cause pneumonia. This person, I'm going to scroll up here, 83-year-old female resident who died after receiving the Pfizer jab on 1/14/21. The patient reportedly got up in the middle of the night feeling, quote, blah, restless and nausea. Then at 4 a.m., the patient was asked to go back to bed. At 6 a.m., the patient was found unresponsive, no pulse, no heartbeat. Go back to bed. Oh. Here's one 71-year-old female resident who passed away after receiving the Pfizer jab on 1/14/21. At 11:30 a.m., patient showed no signs of distress. At 11:50, the nurse went to perform a CV test, an assessment, and found the patient unresponsive in the bathroom floor.
CNA said his conscience wouldn't allow him to stay silent on the topic any longer. See the link to the entire testimony in the description box below.
Now, I'm letting you know, friends, as I'm speaking to you right now, I have nothing to gain, everything to lose. I've been in the health industry, in the health field for over 10 years. I am a certified nursing assistant. That is what I do. And the function of my work is to save the lives of those that are under my care. I'm not going to tell you where I work, but the place that I work is a nursing home. As a CNA who works with the residents, who touch them, who talks to, who pray with them, who cares for them, okay? Like, I'm coming from this angle. I know my patients. I know when they are happy. I know when they are sad. I know when they are frustrated. We know the people that we care for. So, 2 weeks after they receive the vaccine, or 3 weeks later, I am seeing this pattern of not just side effects, to the point where we had people who were once walking who are no longer walking. People who were once talking who could no longer talk. People who were once able to think could no longer think properly. Delirium, confused. In 2020, the whole entire year, we did not have a single death. Did you hear what I said? A single death from any of our residents who had COVID-19. As a matter of fact, we only had about 5 people. How many I said? 5 people at the most was infected with COVID-19. 0 death for the entire year of 2020. I thank God for it, friends. Just about 5 cases at the most. All of them survived. December 2020, right around the time of the 22nd, the vaccine was administered to our patients. Get this, friends. We are in January 18, 2021. They have had such a negative reaction to the vaccine. It's supposed to be a stimulus, right? A stimulus that's supposed to help your immune system to fight against the virus if you were to confront it. I understand that. I'm not anti-vaccine. I understand the purpose of it. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say. But this is what I'm saying, friends. Our residents are dying. Our residents are dying after they have taken the vaccine. And what troubles me, this is not even being spoken about. What bothers my heart is that it's almost like, don't talk about this. Just keep quiet. Just. Now, when you ask those in authority, those in a position that could give you answers, you know what their answers are? We had a super spreader. A super spreader? How are you going to tell me you go to the year of 2020, not a single person passed away? We are in 2021. We are in the middle of the month. Where I work right now, over 14 patients have already died. They are dropping like flies. Here is another thing. There were some patients who did not, listen to me very carefully, who actually refused the vaccine. Guess what? None of them got sick. Majority, friends, I'm telling you, over 60 or 70%, majority of those who actually took the vaccine are sick. Sick to the point of death. This video is going to get me in trouble. I already know that, and I could care less. Because at the end of the day, friends, the life of these innocent residents, the life of these family members, these mothers and fathers, these grandparents are more important than a paycheck.
Yep, that is just one voice.
Now, I fully recommend that you guys go and see the entire video. I want to shout out to my friend who sent that to me earlier today. But I tell you what, Karis, brother, can you make sense of that for me, please? Because I'm trying to understand how we get from the TD Snakes panel and there's no adverse reactions to 14 passed away in this home after this. Please help me to understand.
Oh man, well, I always tell you that the most expensive time of a person's life, especially when it comes to the United States, is actually at retirement. I don't think a lot of people understand this. You know, you're told that you have to have a certain nest egg, right? Because if you have that certain nest egg, you can comfortably retire and then you aren't a burden to the government. Listen, family, does anybody even think that this was like a far-fetched notion? They were never going to be able to handle all of the baby boomers entering into this retirement age. 3 years ago, you actually had Nancy Pelosi saying, look, if we don't do anything to fund Social Security, it's going to be defaulted quickly. And then, you know, COVID-19 happens. You can look this up. This is back in 2017, 2018, when they were trying to do this whole revamp on Social Security. Because they're saying too many of the seniors, the bulge. If you actually look at the population and the populace of the United States, because you haven't had the replacement for the baby boomers. So this, do you understand? The U.S. is top heavy. And I've explained this multiple times. The U.S. is top heavy. It's not having any type of a steady base of taxpayers. It hasn't had that in quite a while. I think 2 or 3 decades. And so now you're going to have a tremendous bulge in the system. And here's the problem. This was always going to be a systematic genocide. And why do we think that this notion is so far-fetched? It's not. You've had that happen, especially in Russia. I mean, come on, family. If they know first, before a nation collapses, they try to take out as many people as they can. And then when they realize that doesn't work, then they just stop all services. That's just how it goes. This isn't anything that's rocket science. If you saw the signs, that was the signs. But see, it was actually a worldwide agenda that is going on. It's just that the U.S. is going to take the brunt because now the powers are shifting. And this is the perfect cover. Oh, look at this. Look at that. Look at what the U.S. did to their people. And, you know, look at what Australia, you know, they said don't panic, but look at South Africa. They shut down the virus or their vaccines. So now it's going to give the excuse, because here in the next 5 or 6 months, when people are basically, you know, they're trying to figure out, well, what's going on? Why is this person, you know, basically comatose, that they're drooling all over themselves? You know, he used to be fine and he just kept declining and declining. Oh, well, that's just a reaction from what? COVID-19. They already know the game. So the brother on there was talking and explaining, look, you already know how it's going to go. Oh, this is just a reaction from COVID-19. Sad. Very sad.
Yeah, it is absolutely sad. And I agree with you. You know, I was looking at this thing. I'm actually going to go share it in a minute about what's going on over in Norway, because it's the same situation, whether it's the U.S. or it's in other nations. It's like we've got to get rid of the elderly. And I don't know if you guys saw this. So this is coming out of Norway. Pfizer vaccine worries Norway as 29 elderly people die after taking the shot. And they try to minimize this thing. They're like trying to make it seem like, oh, you know, it's not a big deal. But I don't know about you guys. I'm not going to read the article, but I think I remember hearing them say that the people that should be taking this vaccine were those who are elderly and those in the Black community and those who have underlying health conditions and all those things. All the people that they want to get rid of. What do you think about that, Minister Yakoba?
Well, you know, the reason why they want to get rid of the elderly is because when we go into the New World Order, which is called the Great Reset, you won't have the old traditions, the biblical values, the whole thing about family and keeping family together, right? They have to get rid of the elderly so that you can have a new system with new rules, debauchery, you know, not knowing who's a man, who's a girl. In order for that to happen, you have to get rid of all the traditions. And that's what they're trying to do. And they want to get rid of us. And the funny thing is, like when it comes to Malema says, well, you know, the white man, y'all worried about them poisoning us, right? But you shouldn't worry because they're taking the same thing that you're taking. So you shouldn't have to worry, because if they take us out, they take themselves out. I'm like, what kind of foolishness is that? That's ignorance, right? That's the same type of person, you know, who has minimal education, because they don't understand that what, according to Moderna themselves, what they're injecting people with is an operating system. According to the Moderna website, it's an operating system, and operating systems can be programmed. And see, the type of people we have today that's not listening to us as we warn them, it's like the girl who took the Gorilla Glue and put in her head, right? That's the kind of people that you know, they're dealing with on a daily basis, and there's a problem getting to that mind.
And it's so funny you brought up that young lady too. I'll tell you, I saw that the other day and it just broke my heart. I couldn't believe. I'm sitting there saying, what is wrong with this young lady that she would do something so foolish? And a lot of people in the comment section were saying she didn't read. She didn't read. Now, I'm not saying, I don't know whether she can or cannot read, but you're absolutely right. The values, it's not just, okay, whether it's a white or a Black thing. The elderly carry values with them. They carry experience with them. And this younger generation that's coming up, they don't value anything anymore. So they're easily moldable, and they're able to just go along with this new system of blase. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no differentiating one thing from another. They're able to easily be molded, and that's exactly what they're looking for. That's an excellent point, because I didn't even consider that. But thank you for sharing that. And Stephen, let me get your thoughts on this whole situation about what this brother is experiencing while he's dealing with the elderly in his community.
You know, it's heartbreaking to watch that video, you know, and because you can see his compassion for what he does and how much it's bothering him, to the point that he's like, I'm ready to just give up this 10 years of hard work. Because, you know, getting in the medical field is not an easy thing to do, you know, but he's ready to give it up because he just can't take it no more, you know. And what bothers me is, you know, we go back to the TD Snakes for a second. That panel, and the lady was like, you know, it's been 10 months and there's no adverse effects. What bothers me with that is, from conception to marketplace, it takes about 10 years for a vaccine trial to take place. How can you say that you've done 10 years worth of work in 10 months to say it's safe for everybody to take? You know, that's what's bothering me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even that woman, I heard her say that, oh, we've been testing this for years. And I thought, hold on a second. What do you mean you've been testing this for years? Are you know, is that a little slip there? How can you test something for years that we just found out about since last year? So, exactly. You know, there's so much confusion when it comes to all this, and they want us to believe them, that, you know, they're the experts and believe the fact checkers, and when in reality none of them are trustworthy. Guys, I just want to encourage y'all to definitely like this. Let's get this up in the algorithms, because, you know, like I said, I have to title things differently now, and I even pulled it away from my keywords because you know how things are with the censorship. So definitely like this, as well as to share this. Sista, let me know what your thoughts are on this, because, you know, I know, you know, you just came back from seeing your parents, from being with them. You know, I'm with my elderly parents and grandparents and stuff. And, you know, to see them being targeted in this way. What are your thoughts about this?
I agree with Yacoba. I think it's the mindset of a reset of morality. That they have been somewhat of our moral compass, because they stick to the ways of, you know, a husband, wife, you know, this whole thing of this binary where you can't say he, she, her, you know, they're not into that. They create that level of morality and wisdom that we need as a people. I'm sorry. And that's what they're trying to do. It's like a global reset. Out with the young, out with the old, in with the young. Because this new generation is just like, they don't know God. I'm gonna be honest. The things that I've seen here is concerning. And then, you know, just like that rapper guy, whatever his name is, they put a diamond in the middle of his forehead.
Lucy Bird.
I said, my goodness, this is where we are as a people. And then, not to mention my generation. You know, my generation still has questionable morality. Their morality compass is even questionable. But you still have a few of us that are still holding on to that, you know, to family and morals and the Bible and how we're supposed to live. That's why Israel is a problem, because now the church is turning certain ones, not the whole church. We're talking about this new age church is now turning away from God and turning to Baal and turning to the money god.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we are still holding fast to God's word, or Yah's word, and we're a problem. That's why Israel is more of a problem than anything, because we are going to be the voice to say this is wrong, this isn't right. So it's Israel is gonna be the one that's gonna have to stand on the word of the Most High. So I think with the older people, they need that moral compass out, and that's how they're doing it.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's why when you have people that subscribe to this UA type of position of thinking, you know, it's really problematic in our community, because I was listening to this one brother who was holding to the pre-trib doctrine, right? And his take on this thing that we're seeing here, the whole vax issue. And he said, well, if you believe like me, if you believe in pre-trib, then, you know, this can't be the mark of the beast, because we're going to be long gone before that happens. So, you know, and I'm sitting there saying, now, see, this is what's wrong with our people right here. They've been sold fairy tales and fantasy rather than the truth of the Most High Yah's word. And they would rather believe in the fairy tales of the Left Behind series than actually get into the book and see themselves in it. And you have these so-called leaders that are leading them like sheep to the slaughter. And that is what we see that's going on. You see it in the Old Testament, you see it in the New Testament. I was sharing the verse talking about how Yahusha talked about the hirelings. They don't care for the sheep. Whenever the sheep are in a dangerous position, then they will run away because they don't have a heart for him. And he said, I am the good shepherd. What do you think about that, Damon? What do you think about what's going on and how our elderly are being targeted in this way?
You know what? It was a gap between the old and the young. The old was the wisdom, the young was the strength. And as long as there's a gap, and the bridge is not connecting, then we got impressionable minds with the young people, like you said, and we going from working smarter and not harder to back to working harder instead of smarter. And even in the school system, when I work it in the special way, how to do math and 2 and 3 different ways how to teach multiplication, and it's like, man, this is just making it so much harder, you know, instead of working smarter. You know what I mean? And they want to dub us down and have smartphones but dumb people. And so we just got to just get back to the things of the Most High. And so even what Sister E was saying as far as the new world order and a new age. They're saying the things of Yah is old. It's old fashioned. In order to progress, we have to get rid of the old way of thinking, the old way of set up how Yah got it. But he's our stability. He's our rock. You know what I mean? And we cannot get away from that. We got to stick to the things of the Most High. We have to.
That's right. That's absolutely 100%. You know, and Brother Karras has shared a link with us earlier, and I'm going to pull that up because I think it's relevant to the conversation, because it's not us that are seeing it alone. A lot of people are seeing that what's happening is something that they'd rather deal with at home. You know, this in pandemic, more people choose to die at home if they're going to die than to deal with the system, because they're being shut out there. When their loved ones get sick, they can't even visit them in the hospital. And it says, I'll read just a little bit of it and then give Karras the opportunity to speak on that. But it says, mortuary owner Brian Simmons has been making more trips to homes to pick up bodies to be cremated and embalmed since the pandemic hit. With COVID-19 devastating communities in Missouri, his two-person crews regularly arrive at homes in the Springfield area and remove bodies of people who decided to die at home rather than to spend their final days in a nursing home or hospital where family visitations were prohibited during the pandemic. He understands all too well why people are choosing to die at home. His own 49-year-old daughter succumbed to the coronavirus just before Christmas at a Springfield hospital, where the family only got phone updates as her condition deteriorated. The separation part is really rough, said Simmons. My daughter went to the hospital and we saw her once through the glass when they put her on the ventilator, and then we never saw her again until after she died. So this is an unfortunate thing where I agree so much with what Minister Yacoba said, because even the very essence of just being able to have love and community and sharing with one another, touching one another, that's been stripped from us. It's like stripping of all of the old foundation. I think there's actually a scripture about that. It's like removing the ancient stones and the ancient foundation that has been set. And now we're seeing this whole new reset, this new way of thinking coming into place. And it's so much easier to do it with the young generation than it is the older. What are your thoughts on that, Brother Karras?
Yeah. So my whole analytical approach to that article was actually based off of the fact that they had said, the news was reporting, the hospitalizations had dropped, throughout the country, right? So the hospitalizations had dropped. However, the deaths were peaking. And I think either yesterday or a couple of days ago, the death toll was 5,077 people that had died. And so the thing is that, they used to not, they were trying to not attribute the deaths to corona. And now they just realize, look, they're dying from it. It's happening. But now they understand that these folks aren't even making it to the hospital. And now it's like, well, that may not be a good thing that these hospitalizations are going down. It just means that, whenever they're just tired of the DOA. Look, I ain't going to make it. If I'm calling for an ambulance, let me just tell you, the so longs. And when the ambulance gets there, all they can do is just take them right to the morgue, call the time of death, and it's right to the morgue. So this is where, everything that they'll try to cover up. It's always an exposure after it's covered up. And we understand that. Remember, COVID wasn't that big of a deal. They said that last year, and then now COVID is insane. And did you see, just to bring this on up? So there is a congressman out of St. Louis that had died of COVID-19. He was a congressional elect. He died. And there was an actual GOP congressman.
Wow, I didn't even hear about that. I heard about the doctor who passed away, but I did not hear about a congressman who passed away.
No, he died today. He died today. And he had contracted it, probably more than likely, from the insurgency, and my man is no longer on this side of the grave. So, when this is the thing, when you're dealing with a prideful heart, look, God is going to check your pride, and he's showing it. He's showing out, look, don't think that this thing is going to go away. Don't think that you're going to get comfortable, because every time they try to get comfortable in this judgment, the Most High literally brings about something else, and it hurts them even more.
This is the man you're talking about right here. North Texas Congressman Ron Wright dies after testing positive for COVID-19. Wow. And he was 67 years old. Whew. I tell you, right, they are dropping like flies. This is a very sad situation. But I think the thing is that this is a judgment. And even though their focus is still on us, it's coming back on them. But I was looking at something aside from the churches, because I wanted to see how the Ish community was responding to this in their synagogues. And I came across this article, and I thought it was very interesting because they kind of lightly touched on it. And then I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to get you guys' take on this. Minnesota places of worship will play an important role in vaccination of at-risk populations. As COVID-19 vaccinations move forward across Minnesota, places of worship could play a role in connecting physicians with some of the state's most vulnerable. Right now, a medical resident at Hennepin Healthcare is reaching out to local mosques to help spread the word about the vaccine. Now, mind you, I looked up Ish folk, but they're talking about mosques now. We are focused on trying to ensure that there is equitable access to the vaccine, said Dr. Hoda Hassan. As COVID-19 vaccinations continue to roll out, Dr. Hoda Hassan, a psychiatry resident at Hennepin Healthcare, is working to reach the Somali population. Essentially, what we have been doing is partnering with local sheikhs and imams, providing a platform that we can educate the community, said Dr. Hassan. The pandemic is hitting communities of color especially hard. Dr. Hassan says when it comes to the vaccine, among some, there's a deep distrust, and controlling the spread of misinformation is yet another battle. With the COVID-19 vaccine, there's concerns regarding how rapidly it was developed and some conspiracies, said Dr. Hassan. Unfortunately, some conspiracy videos sharing some non-factual information about the COVID-19 vaccines. From synagogues to churches, places of worship become a center point for vaccination outreach. At one local synagogue, participants of a recent flu clinic who were 65 and older are eligible to be vaccinated against COVID-19 through Hennepin Healthcare. Dr. Hassan is working with mosques across the Metro and St. Cloud. Folks are being called to make appointments to come to one of the Hennepin Healthcare Clinic locations to get their vaccine, said Dr. Hassan. With the help of staff who speak the Somali language, Dr. Hassan says they are making headway, but admits time may be running out. We have time still. Even though that time is running out, we still have some time to continue to put efforts into outreach, Dr. Hassan explained, making sure that the most vulnerable get the access they deserve. That tripped me out. I said, okay, I'm looking up what's going on in the synagogues. They put a little snippet, just a little bit. Oh, they had the flu thing. But now let's focus on the Somalians and the mosques. What do y'all think about that?
That is interesting. This is a new one. You didn't pull the quick one on me, sis. I didn't know that. That's gonna be.
Yeah, I just found out that myself. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I mean, maybe y'all could let me know, right? Because I'm not, and especially you, Sista, because you're dealing with Cohen Hamadishi and dealing with the Limba tribe. But where do the Somalians fit in this? Are they of Hamitic descent or are they of Shemitic descent? Because I'm not sure.
I think it's a divide there because you got to think about some of the Limba went through Somalia and Yemen and those different areas in Ethiopia. So I think that's where you really just can't 100% say if they're Hamitic or if they're just Shemitic, because again, you got Yemen who have the Sina people who is fairly close to Somalia. They are tied to the Limba. So yeah, you really can't I can't. I don't quite know. I don't know 100% know if all Somalians are Hamitic, because some are Shemitic.
Well, they have the Yabir in Somalia, and they're Hebrew Israelites.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Can you repeat that, Mr. Yacoba? You said who is Hebrew Israelites?
The Yabir, Yibir.
Okay.
They're Hebrew Israelites.
Wow. So I just feel like it's an overall targeting, of our people dispersed. And I know they've been focusing a lot on like this new variant in South Africa, and that's where most of their people live. But it seems like it's just a constant, like, oh well, they've been hit the hardest. They've been hit the hardest, and it comes back to either us as melanated people, whether we are of Shemitic lineage or Hamitic lineage, or it's coming to the elderly. So it seems again like it's just a whole focus on just wiping us out collectively. And TCA, as a matter of fact, he was doing a live the other day, and he was sharing, I think it was like Natural News, and the gentleman who runs that website, he was just very forthright. He was saying that they are literally targeting you all, and especially when it comes to young Black boys, at 347%, I believe the rate was in terms of autism from getting vaccinations that are non-WUVID related. So imagine the impact that this one could have on our community, particularly our young people. You guys want to share any thoughts before we get ready to wrap up regarding that?
Yeah, so I have a question. Do you all not see, I mean, to me at least, that this fulfills the darkness of Isaiah 60 that covers the land and gross darkness to people, right? And so like even in Isaiah 25, I believe it's, 6 or 9? I think it's 9. It says, surely this is our God. We trusted in him and he saved us. So we at the point where, we see all this darkness and we like, well, where is he? He said he was going to come. Right. And so now, it's either stand or die. It's like I said before, right? On some of my shows, I say we're at the place where if he doesn't come, we're done. That's how I see it. I don't want to put no fear in anybody. But I mean, literally, we need to cry out to the Most High, because if he doesn't come, we're done, because this is a mass extermination program happening before our eyes.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, go ahead, Sista.
Now I was getting ready to say, because I was going to chime in with what Yacoba said, because what's interesting is we all know he's going to come. It says the ones that endure until the end shall be what's saved. It's those with that mindset of that pre-trib, waiting on that pre-trib. Those are the ones that's going to have the shocker. Because again, I've heard ministers say, oh, don't worry about Revelation. Oh, don't worry about what's going to happen in the end day, because we're going to get caught up. And it's like, I don't think I even at that time, I was like, this is new to me. I'd never heard about pre-trib. I was like a teenager. So I think with that scripture as well, it's going to be a time where people are going to be like, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to be raptured up. Wait a minute, why are we still here? So that's going to be interesting when things get even worse, because it's going to get bad. I think with this vaccine, we're going to start seeing some real crazy stuff. So.
Absolutely. And I don't know about y'all, but even before all this thing went down with the pandemic, I was getting all kinds of dreams, right? I mean, just a ton of dreams. And matter of fact, Sister, you and I talked about some of those dreams, that we get, what I'm saying? And it's like, I would have these dreams sometimes, even years before, where it was like all this calamity was happening all around me, and I would just barely be escaping. Yep. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? You've been there before your dreams, right?
Yep, I have. We had the conversation about the dream of me and my daughter barely escaping, and seeing destruction all around us, and then we make it out. So,
yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing, and it's like, Mr. Yacoba, you're saying a lot of times on your channel, like, yeah, he's going to have to come, otherwise we're going to be in trouble. And I feel exactly how you feel, because it's like, I feel like all the darkness is encroaching around us right now. And we have to cry out and spare not, because this is a time where we realize that we don't have the power to stop the current powers that be within ourselves, within, our physical makeup. We don't have the resources. We don't even have the unity as far as a people goes. So those of us who are part of like this remnant, who are waking up, we have the responsibility to cry out. We have to cry out to him, and we've got to really listen and discern what he's telling us to do in this day and time. What are your thoughts on that, Stephen?
Can I ask you a question right quick, Sister Ashanda?
Absolutely.
You live on the islands, right? One of the islands, Bermuda or something. What?
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
So
Yeah.
what is it like there? That's what I'm curious, because I don't hear anything about the islands. What are they doing for this whole pandemic thing and the vaccines?
It's a very interesting question you asked me because, you know, unfortunately, they do very much so like the states do, you know, because even though this is a territory, it's like, okay, well, we're taking our direction from the United States. And so the governor, he is pretty much, you know, leaning and taking directives from whatever it is that I would even assume, you know, DeSantis is doing, even though he's not a Republican. Just what are they doing? What's their initiative? So we do have the vaccines here, you know, and they said, I met a couple of people before, my own family members who took it. I met a couple people that said that they had taken it. Oh, well, you know, I felt okay with taking it. And I was trying to explain to them who they were and why they shouldn't be taking that. But they had already decided to take it. And they said to the general public that it wasn't going to be available until April. But a lot of people here work in the government. OK, so when it comes to, you know, a good majority, I guess you would say the more affluent people that are working in the government, they're taking theirs now. They're pushing it now out on them. And makes a very difficult position for me to be in, because, you know, like I told you, I'm trying to be incognito as possible out here, you know. But, you know, I'm just seeing that the general population within the islands, they are very just lackadaisical about it. There's not a whole lot of talking about it. Only once, we went to the gas station and saw this one brother. He had like some speakers in the back of his truck, and he was blasting that he wasn't taking this Babylonian vaccine. And so I was like, you know, only one person, and I think he was a Rasta. So, you know, you got, for the most part, it's just this attitude of just like, you know, I'm not really concerned about it. And as a matter of fact, there's this one brother that I talk to from time to time, and he's an Israelite, and he goes to the little mall, and he's trying to share who we are. And he's so frustrated because he's just like, our people are so stiff-necked. They don't want to hear anything. And I said, man, I got to invite you to come on the channel so you can express how you feel, because you're out here on the front lines dealing with the local community and seeing just this general attitude of apathy. And it's very frustrating. So I guess that's the best way to describe it. You got two classes, government class and regular class, and the government people, they're taking it. They're watching CNN too, just like everybody else. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. But Stephen, what do you have to say? What's going on in your neck of the woods over in Atlanta?
Man, here in Atlanta, people are getting the vaccine, people dying from the vaccine. It's the same everywhere. You know, the dragon's after the woman, you know, and our people don't even see it, you know, and it's just, at times I'm speechless at times, just seeing everything that's going on. And, you know, Ashanda, you know me, I get emotional sometimes with anger when I look at how the churches and, you know, all these mega pastors and just the way they handle things. They're more concerned about their pocket than their people, you know, and they're just trying to convince us to do all these things that go against the word of Yah. You know, my favorite thing me and my wife talk about that happened due to COVID is people stopped going to churches and started sitting at their house, opening their Bible and reading it for themselves, and stop letting a pastor tell them, read this, read that. You know, I think Minister Yacoba mentioned it. You know, everybody wanted to stay away from Revelations because, you know, the pastors didn't want nobody reading Revelations, you know, but people are now home and they're reading the Bible for themselves, and they go into Revelations and they're like, wait a minute. And those who have an ear to hear and they have their eyes open to what's going on, they're like, man, I see what's going on. But the problem is they see what's going on, but they still going to get this vaccine. They still
going to get it.
They still going to get it. It's like, why? It's like so much is presented in front of you, but you're still going against the Most High. This vaccine is not for his people. But like we all have pointed out here tonight, our people are a stiff-necked people, and that's the reason there's going to be a remnant leaving here. And I just want to take a minute to encourage anybody, if you have the opportunity to leave Babylon, leave. If you got the finances, you got the ability, leave. Because like Mr. Jacoby said, it's not getting better here. It's not going to get better here. And if the Most High does not come back, we're done. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, the problem is, it's like you think about how these other nations are handling it. And I don't know, some nations may be handling it a little bit different than what's going on in the U.S., what's going on in the territories. But, we're really going to need Yah's hand on us no matter where we are, because, I was speaking to my sister, and she's out in Costa Rica. And she was saying that actually over there, that it's like they're handling it a lot different. Okay, like she said, I'm not even feeling what the rest of the world is feeling. I'm like, man, I need to get on over to Costa Rica. this is crazy over here. Just the attitude. It's just almost like a zombie type attitude concerning what's going on in the world. People really think that, that things are going to turn back into the way they were, into some form of quote unquote normalcy. And it's not the case. But, I'm going to tell you, I'm most disappointed. I know that a lot of the people in the church still aren't awake, but I'm most disappointed because I think about what Yahushua said when he said, my Father's house is supposed to be a house of prayer, but you've made it into a den of thieves. And I think about the fact that these are supposed to be the places of refuge, right? They're supposed to be where the people of the Most High can get together and they can walk in faith, right? They can stand in faith and unify. And, y'all had showed that the other day. I believe it was, Karis, you were on Teo when you talked about with, that minister, what's his name? The guy who was crying all over the place. Y'all help me out. What's that minister's name? Talking about why didn't we warn them? Okay. The response that this guy had about why didn't Noel Jones, why didn't they warn them, and to see that, okay, you didn't warn the people about what was to come. And now, instead of not warning, now you're taking it to the whole other extreme and opening up what's supposed to be the so-called house of God. You're opening it up for the enemy to come right on in with the hand of the government. And this, to me, this is just being in bed with the enemy too much. There's just, there's no denying that our people are stiff-necked, but a lot of them are blind, and why 2/3 won't make it. What are your thoughts on that, Damon, before we get ready to wrap up?
I just think we got to continue to cry out to the Most High as a nation, and it is very interesting. And I think this too. I was thinking about all this. I want to say it was a blessing in our suffering, because it made us wiser. It didn't harden our heart, but it made us say, well, wow, we have no allies. We have no allies but the Most High, right? We got the different governmental systems. The police will beat you down, drag you in the streets. You go to court, you don't get a fair trial. And all of these different things happen. But then it makes you say, okay, I'm not going to have a hardened heart. Man, my only ally, my only shot is the Most High. And some people get into these different things. We can be in it and not of it. And some people get into these different legislative things and try to help, but we know that the system is tainted. And so their hands is limited. The things that they can do and say is limited. So I think even in all of the suffering of all of these years, it made us focus on the Most High. So I think that's what made it. I think that's a blessing in it, even though it was painful all the way through.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And him kind of separating us from then so that we'd understand that this time that we're at, that we can handle this. Because before the pandemic, he was separating, he was just pulling us away. And that leads me to ask y'all a question. Let me ask y'all personally. When's the last time y'all been to a church? Anybody want to answer that? It's been a couple years for me.
I'm trying to think hard. I think I think sometimes I go and visit my mom's church with her, but that's my home church. It's a little different. They're kind of like isolated. You know what? I will say that much. Those churches that are not interconnected with other churches, like part of those like major denominations that are kind of isolated, they're a little different. But you still have to be careful with them. So it's been about a year or so. I think it's probably even been longer than that, but it's been about a year since I've been to a church.
And you know what? I'm gonna tell you, I had 2 churches right down the street from me, walking distance, and I would not walk in one of those churches. I looked at the neighborhood around me. I said, I don't understand how the neighborhood around me could look like this and these edifices could look like this. I think I want to stay away. I want to stay away from there because something ain't right. You know, and last time I went to church that I had really kind of, grown up in the faith in, my Pentecostal church. They flashed the image of Caesar Borgia, right before we left. And I was like, oh man, boy, my people still sleep. 95% Israelite congregation, but they still sleeping. And so I was just kind of just done with it. I was disgusted from then. Like, oh, I'm trying to. So I deal with my Christian brothers and sisters on a one-on-one basis or within my small group. But in terms of just going into one of these buildings, I almost felt like, no, like that has become a place where it's not trustworthy. It's a place where it's deceiving a lot of people. And so I kind of stay away from it. What about you, Mr. Jacob? When the last time you've been to a church?
Let me clear something up. I've been to an Israelite assembly in the past couple of months too, as well, if we saying that. So I just want to say that. So, okay, sorry.
Oh, no, you good. Yeah, that's different though. As Pastor Kelly, that's different. We need places where we can have a refuge together. But as far as like, the Gentile minded, what was the last time you've been to a church?
About 2 years.
What was your last experience when you were there?
Well, my pastor, he was a pretty cool guy, but he knew who we were and we talked about it. But he also thought that there's people may be us too. And, he still had some Eurocentric ideology, but he wasn't as bad as most of the Eurocentric churches out there.
Well, I'm glad you had a decent pastor. My pastor was pretty decent too, but he wasn't gonna wake up because he's Caucasian. So, it's very difficult. It's very difficult when you have, a church where you got thousands of members and to be in that situation to acknowledge that we're the people. So I didn't even go there with him. I tried to with some of the leadership, but they weren't going to receive it. They just is like, I'm going to ghost you rather than receive this. So that's unfortunate. But what about you, Stephen? What's the last time that you've been to a church? Because I remember your old church where you used to go.
Yeah. We went to, last time we had been to that church was about 3 years ago. Last time we went to that church. When we first came to Atlanta, we met this pastor at IHOP, and he invited us to his church. We came, went a couple times, but then, they started talking about gold dust and angel feathers, so we had to leave, But wow. So it's been 2.5 years for us. But if I be honest, every time TEOTW Ministries, Sister E, Covenant Awakings, Elephantman is on, yourself, I'm in church. Y'all been my teachers this last 2.5 years. So whenever y'all doing something, I'm in church. But a place like that, 2.5 years.
I think we all feel that way. We go and get our morning service from Karis and Covenant Awakens. Get our evening service from
morning prayer.
Brother Stephen, for me it was Pastor Darby. I was sitting in there.
Oh yes. That was for me too. I was so mad when he passed. I was so sad. I'm like, no, Pastor, come on. Look, I don't know about y'all, but whenever Destin Ministries put out a new release to this day, when them old ones, I still go and click on like, oh man, this is some hot stuff. So hot off the presses.
It's hard.
Pastor Darby for me, and then after he passed, I got put on to Pastor Omar, and with the School of the Hebrews, and ended up actually becoming the president of the chapter here in Atlanta for a while before the School of Hebrew chapters got shut down because they had got infiltrated by the camps. But I, hadn't never been to the church down in Louisiana, but we watched it from here at the house. But actual building, 2.5. But yeah, Pastor Darby was deep. He was a real man of God. I miss that man a lot.
Yeah, that was real sad to see how everything went down with those chapters of School of the Hebrews. And I think that if Pastor Darby was there, he would have been able to really mentor Pastor Omar a lot more. Because he's so knowledgeable. He's got so much information. But I think what stood out about Pastor Darby was just, he just had gall. He just had but he didn't care. And look, Mr. Jacoby, you done picked up that mantle, right? Because it's just like, you got to be able to stand firm and just say what you're going to say. And, I'm coming out with a message in a few days called Say It With Your Chest, right? But you got to say, I said it, and you got to keep going. You got to say it with that conviction, because our people really are a stiff-necked people in so many ways. But
you said
what?
I used to laugh when he said it. I said it.
That was everything. And then he said, I'm going to cut you, right? I used to love that. I'm like, I want you to just slice me and dice me all up because I need this. It was a good slicing and dicing, but I used
to love when he'd be like, you heard me? You heard me? I'd be like, oh my goodness, that's that Tennessee. Because, he was close to Kentucky and Tennessee, and he would say, you heard me? I said, oh, that means, do you hear me?
Yes.
Clean that up. So, yeah.
Oh, man. What about over there?
Oh, yeah, there.
Over there. That's right over there. Right there.
Hey, his wife is no joke either now. Don't look, his wife is no joke either.
Oh, Missy Darby? Yeah. She on fire.
I like her.
She holding that mantle. And I love that even after he passed, like you could just he poured something into her because she was so strong even afterwards. She just kept going. And it's just like, man, you got to be a real strong woman to deal with something like that and just to not even miss a beat. Just keep going like, oh, I was prepared, not prepared. I was prepared for this. So yeah, we definitely gonna miss Pastor Darby. We look forward to seeing him one day and letting him know. I know he's gonna have a lot of people letting him know how much he influenced their lives. What say you, Karis?
All right. I'm just over here cracking up because that accent there in Kentucky has me going. Oh my goodness. Don't ask for directions in Kentucky. You're gonna be just all sorts of lost. Actually, it's funny. I went to church last year with my mom up in Gainesville, and honestly, the church that she goes to is so it has like a Creflo Dollar. No kidding. It's like a Creflo Dollar satellite church, like from one of his like associate pastors, had been on the prior staff. And I just was so, I'm in there. They do the contemporary, Christian songs and things of that nature. And I'm trying to be respectful because it's, I'm at my mom's church. But it was just so, and I mean, I'm not one to talk. I don't want to, criticize too harshly. But I'm like, okay, he has a good message, but you can tell it was just about if you go ahead, your blessing's gonna be like this. Your blessing, and of course. Everywhere throughout Florida, it's retirees. You see what I'm saying? So he's preaching about, the health and it's everything that he's trying to equate. And it's like, your health is going to be blessed because you're tithing, because you're giving with the cheerful heart. And it's just like, man.
And this was last year. I wonder what they're thinking now.
This is like right before COVID hit. And I'm with my mom, I'm like, oh man, Mom. I was like,
wow.
So what did you get out of this? You know, you have to pay your like my mom was big on it. Give you 10%, give you 10%. I said, so what about, you know, this and that? And I don't mind. Listen, you give to the storehouse, but let me tell you, sometimes you're gonna put things in the mold. You want to have growth. You don't want to put things in the moldy places. And these folks, the leaks are all on out there, you know, and so. And so, yeah, so I mean, you know, I feel blessed that you all, you know, and enjoy my teachings, you know, especially this last week. This last week was a monster because, you know, really the Holy Spirit put that on my heart for that faith challenge. And he said, all right, you're gonna go through this. And let me just tell you that, family, when I do anything over like an hour and a half, I get tired, you know. And you know, because I just don't sit here. I have like I got to do like my classes. I got to do schoolwork. I got to do other things, you know, for my family. And it's like it really does have a drain. Now I definitely enjoy being on with you all, and I know, you know. Listen, I was on, you know, 12 hours ago, and it's like 11:30, so I'm already like looking at my bedtime. But you know, I tell you, my formula is it's not complicated. Look, I get on up. I'm not gonna lie to you. I pray, I read my word, and I kind of whine. Father, why don't you have me? You know, I don't want to do this. Let me just be honest. Everybody's like, oh, you know, you get, you know, the Most High has blessed me. I said, that's because I'm like, man, I really don't want to do anything. And then God put something in my spirit. I'm like, oh, that's why. Because I'll have different interactions. I'll have different things, especially with my own family members, of why, you know, I've gone through that, or I've seen that, or just things that I've been involved in. And so, you know, listen, you can't, for me, the formula that I have, I get it from my dad. You know, listen, God isn't going to bring you along, you know, and have you testify to something that you've never been in.
Ain't that right?
Be in those hardships. You have to be in those heartaches, because if they see that you're in it, then it's more genuine. You can't be a pastor, you can't be a teacher, you can't be a minister. And you know, I actually had this conversation with my dad this morning, and I said, you know what, Dad? I said I was telling this on my little channel. I said, you know, I was telling about your heartaches of when you lived in the park, because God had told you, you know, look, he's going to strip you for ministry. And I said, when you told me that I was going to go into ministry, I said, the devil's a liar. I said, Dad, I'm about to reach through this phone and pop you in the face.
I feel you on that.
You know, Father, forgive me. but you know, but he was laughing. He said no, because the funny thing is that when you tell that to God, that's when he says no. That is what you're going to do. And you know, lo and behold, with all this stuff happening, I had just always had these kind of messages in my heart every single time I've read the word. And I would have this even when I was working on active duty. I'd always have like a word, you know, and I would just have the same word, you know, with my dad, with my family. And it wasn't hard for me to bring that word on out. Now with this platform, you know, I'm bringing this word on out because it's forced me to really like delve on in, and not just delve on in into, you know, what I'm hearing, but it's also when I'm in prayer and having a different attitude of praying, where it's not a work, you know, because sometimes we always like to say, well, I got to work for this and work for that, you know, but it's a sustainment, it's a growth. And you know, I told people, look, for me, I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, because we all have our shortcomings, but that's okay, because that's the season of exposure that the Most High needs. Because if you can't expose your heart to the Most High, how are you going to expose that to other people that need a genuine word? We're so tired of, you know, of pastors trying to fake the funk because they got, in the seminary and they did that lottery ticket, preaching, God
Yeah.
blessed me with this. I had this wife, but God blessed me with this one.
Right. And then it don't add up to your real life when you leave, after hearing the sermon, you go back to your regular life and you're like, wait a minute, how come I don't see that power there? How come I don't have that joy? How come I don't see, it's just such a disconnect. And that's why, how he's choosing to raise people up today, you really, and this message is aptly titled Wheat and Tares, because the people he's choosing to raise up these days, they don't necessarily, we can speak firsthand. We don't necessarily we didn't ask to do this and be put in the place where we're speaking to the audiences that he's allowed to come to us, the people he's allowed to come to us. Sometimes it's exhausting. And then there's spiritual attack that goes with that. Like, Sista, I was listening to you the other day and you were like, I was just ready to kind of just throw the towel in for a minute, and that's what they wanted. But they didn't realize they actually just gave me super strength. They gave me energy to keep going, to keep pushing, and I'm back. And it's like everything that we have, everything that we're able to do, we need to be fortified by the Ruach to give us that added strength in order to keep going, because we live in our regular lives too. We're dealing with all the same stuff. And then the enemy comes and he's lodging attacks on our minds and our hearts and trying to deter us from continuing. And this is why it's very important to keep all of us in your prayers. All of us, wherever you're being fed, keep us in your prayers, because we want to be able to be faithful. We want to do this job faithfully. And with that, I'm gonna give Mr. Jacobo opportunity to speak on that, because I know with the mantle that he's put on you in particular and your brother, that it can be strenuous at times, but we got to stand and stand and stand. I'm gonna we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. And I want to thank y'all so much for being a part of this. Mr. Jacobo, you there? Oh, he probably had to step away.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good.
And what was the question again?
Oh, no, I was just talking about the mantle that you carry, when you're trying to stand up and you're trying to, be a voice crying in the wilderness, when you're dealing with all of these tares, when you're dealing with all of these, people, especially these so-called leadership, they're leading people astray, and you're carrying a mantle to lead them in the right way. How is that? How does that feel from a day-to-day aspect for you?
Well, it's not like you see with TD Jakes, I could tell you that. The stuff that I've dealt with, as you said, crying and stuff, literally. I mean, I've dealt with so much spiritual attacks. People don't know when you get into this ministry how the spiritual attacks are just off the chain. I don't even talk about it. And then, you want to talk about just the regular life trials that we deal with. You got to deal with those too, and health issues and all kind of stuff. I mean, if I told y'all the stories of stuff I had to deal with, y'all be like, how do you survive, right? And as I've said before, it's just the Most High keeping me going, because sometimes I just want to fall over and just go to sleep.
Yeah, I feel you on that 100%. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming out and just being a part of this, because we got to wake our people up to what's going on. Understand that there is still wheat in the earth. You all are part of the wheat. There's still a remnant who has not bowed the knee to Baal. And we're grateful that he's put us in a position where he's giving us the discernment that we need for these days and these times. And uphold us, uphold those who you're being fed by, uphold them in prayer, uphold them with love and comments, because it does encourage us, and we can't all get through this together, because this is the Most High story, and he's allowing us to be a part of his great tapestry. So let's uphold one another together. And Sista, I'm gonna ask you if you could close us out in prayer, and then we're gonna go ahead and get out of here.
Hey, Sister Ashanda, before she does that, can I say something real quick to the panel?
Absolutely.
All right. First of all, thank you for having me on tonight, sis. We've been on this road over 18 years together. But I just want to say something to the panel. I know you guys see the stuff in the comments, but I want you to hear my voice when I say this. I appreciate the diligence and the obedience that you guys have put into everything that you have put out over the years. You guys have not backed down from any fight, whether it be from the UA community, from the Christian community, or from the Israelite community, talking about the camps, and I just want to share with y'all, your diligence and your obedience has made me a better man. And I want y'all to hear that from my voice, because I know you guys see the stuff in the notes, like when you have time to look at what's going on in the chat rooms, but y'all really need to hear that, that what you're doing is really appreciated. And I'm humbled to be on this platform, to be able to be here with Minister Yacoba, Sister E, Brother Karis, Brother Damon, my sister Ashanda. I just thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing, and I just want to encourage y'all to keep going. No matter what is thrown your way, just keep going, because you are making an impact in people's lives.
I really appreciate that, Stephen. Definitely do. I mean, it's a humbling experience to be here. And I know that what you're doing, people don't get an opportunity to see because you don't have a YouTube channel yet. We're working on it. It's coming out, y'all. But what you're doing in your own right out in Atlanta, and being a part of the School of the Hebrews at first, and you didn't stop, and you still have your group that you're working with, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. But I want to thank you for being obedient as well, you as well as Sister Isha, your wife. And we just, we got to uphold one another. We've got to be diligent to uphold one another. Brother Damon out there working with his podcast, our Elephantman podcast. It is growing, and we're just thankful for how he's using all of us collectively. So thank you guys again. Y'all just be strong and trust the Most High. Y'all. I also want to say before we get ready to head out, thank you so much in the super chat, SB. I really appreciate you for your gift as well. And Sister E, could you go ahead and close us out in prayer?
Oh, most definitely. Also, I want to make a funny joke. At first, I want to say also to Stephen before I say this. Yeah, I agree with Ashanda. You are doing a great work, my brother. I want to see you do that YouTube, because you have such a humble heart and a humble spirit to please God. I first came across you on your Bible study, and you invited me, and I came on, and it was just so amazing to see the humbleness and the love that came from your community, your group. And I just want to let you know how much you all had blessed me coming to the Bible study and interacting with the community. So by no means, my brother, we also know the great works that you're doing behind the scenes. Plus you're doing all that cooking. You got to make a sister something. But
you can throw that out. You can throw that with the pigs.
Yes. But I mean, it was amazing. And the funny thing is, Damon had been my Facebook friend for a long time, and I didn't know who he was. And then I figured out that he was Elephantman. So that was hilarious. So, but I mean, I think everybody up here is doing a great work for y'all. I thank y'all. I really do. And Yacoba can tell you that it is tiresome. I know all of us is tiresome. In a lot of cases, I had conversations with Yacoba sometimes where I'm just like, I'm done. I'm ready to walk away. But I know I can't, because this has been something that he has put in my heart. And y'all just don't know, sometimes watching you all, it gives me that reset as well when I need it. And I need it the most. And I think this here recently, I really needed it. So I just want to thank you all for your prayers and your lives that keeps me going. So,
and can I say something right quick? And
yeah.
Brother Stephen, it's people like you and everyone who supports us, right? That does help keep us going. And when we see that y'all blessed by what we do, it makes us, it gives us energy to keep going. And Sister Ashanda, we appreciate this and thank you for having us on. And let's do the work of the Most High, because I think He's coming soon.
Thank y'all so much. Love you guys so much. Y'all so awesome. Praise y'all for you. All right, sis.
All right. All hearts, minds. Heavenly Father, first we want to give you glory for this great opportunity. Father, we thank you for a chance to come before your people, and we come before you, Father, doing your will. I ask right now, Father, that you give us guidance in everything that we do. Order our footsteps, that we're doing your will, Father. Abba God, we ask that you give us understanding. You give us wisdom to give and feed the people as you would want us to do. Give us understanding and wisdom in our walks, in our daily lives, God. We ask also, Father, to give us energy and rejuvenate some of us that are just tired, Father. Give us strength to continue on to do the work of the kingdom. Our number one goal is to bring people to your awesome Son, Christ, and let them see that he is our Savior. He is our Redeemer. He is our Lord and our Savior. So God, just give us, just let us continue that work as you would ask us, that you would require for us to do. God, as we go home to our families, the ones that are not home or the ones that are at home, let us be a light to our family and our friends as well. We ask, Father, that you cover our families in the midst of this pandemic, that the ones that have taken the vaccine, Father, that the vaccine does nothing to them, that it does not cause them any harm. And the ones that we don't know that are about to take the vaccine, Father, that you cover them, because some of them are ignorant to what's to come behind that vaccine. And Father, the ones that don't take the vaccine and the ones that make the stand against the vaccine, Father, give us strength to stand for you and you alone, Father. We give your name the praise and the glory, because we know this is the time that you called us to stand and be the children of Yah and stand in the gap for your people. God, as we wait for our Messiah to come, God, give us the strength to endure until the end. Give us the strength and the heart to keep going, to run the race of faith. Let them see the light of Yeshua in us and not us. And we will give your name the praise and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Oh, he's so good. He's so good to us, guys. So we're just going to hold on. We know he's fully in control. We fear not, because he didn't give us a spirit of fear, but one of love, power, and a sound mind. And in these days and these times, we must hold on to that truth. We must humble ourselves under the mighty right hand of the Most High, submit to him, resist the devil, and he will flee. So thank y'all so much for coming out again. As always, family, y'all know what I say. Love yourselves without hating your enemies. And until next time, y'all bless. And Salamah, closing out with the 714 movement.